Welcome everybody to a new episode of Film Freaks. And I'm your old pal, the Moocow, and I'm here with
Jonathan A. Moody.
And today we are talking about the classic 1995 John Sayles film, Lone Star.
Lone Star.
And it's got Chris Christopherson, Matthew McConaughey, Chris Cooper, and Frances McCormick, Elizabeth Pena, Joe Morton, just a whole bunch of folks. A lot of folks that you've seen before in other films that were done by John Sayles, and wrote and directed it. And he's just one of the great American filmmakers of all time. And this is another really, really great movie. And it's kind of about secrets and and looking for them, and not necessarily finding out what you want to find out. You know what I mean? Sometimes secrets are best left alone, you know?
They are best left kept secret.
Yeah, sometimes. Some secrets, others maybe not so much. But yeah, so this was your first time watching it, right?
Yeah, the only Lone Star I knew was Lone Star from frickin' Spaceballs. Lone Star.
Yeah, no, it's not like that. And yeah, so basically, Chris Cooper is playing the new Sheriff Deeds, who will always be Junior to his father, who is
Buddy.
Yeah, the legend Sheriff Buddy Deeds.
Which I got everybody mixed up in my head. I thought Chris Christopherson was Buddy, and I thought that was his father and everything.
He's
I was like, he's
Charlie
a
Wade.
nasty looking guy, a nasty guy. But I guess Chris Christopherson was the evil whatever.
Charlie Wade.
Charlie Wade, who ended up missing, and then Buddy stepped up and became the new sheriff and everything.
And he thinks, and a lot of people think, that Buddy Wade is the one who actually Buddy Deeds is the one who kills Charlie Wade, because Charlie Wade ends up missing, and then there's this whole rigmarole.
Spoiler alert, we will tell you all of that. So if you haven't seen the movie, go watch it, buy it, rent
really,
it, whatever.
Really, really good. It's all small town secrets kind of a thing that all sort of comes to a head, and it involves the police department and local politics, a lot of the local people, because everybody seems to have some kind of a secret that they're trying to keep in the dark for everybody else, because that's what happens in a small town. Everybody knows everybody else, and sometimes things happen and you don't want everybody to know about it. And especially when it comes to someone like Charlie Wade, who was not shy about being a bully, being a jerk, being a murderer. And, the guy who comes after him, Charlie Deeds, Buddy Deeds rather, he's different. He's a little bit better, but he's still not squeaky clean the way that Chris Cooper's character wants him to be,
or Chris Cooper himself sort of becomes.
Right. He's kind of the straight arrow in this.
But see, what I liked about it, and I talked to you about this a little bit, is the fact that Chris Cooper's character wasn't in love with being a sheriff. He didn't want to be a sheriff.
It was incidental. The reason he came back was really because he got divorced from his crazy ass wife, and his high school love that he still had feelings for was living in the area, and that's really what he came back for. And there's that whole romance that's really in the background of all this that ends up coming to the forte at the beginning, or at the end rather.
Both. So, it's all throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which is nice. It was nice to have that little romance angle to it, but especially when a lot of it's like cops shooting other people, especially Charlie shooting other people.
And it kind of turns out to be a, shall we say, non-traditional romance.
We'll talk about that later. I think that'll come toward the end of the...
Yeah. So there's lots of wheelings and dealings and a lot of interesting characters, and you wonder how they all interplay, and it's not till towards the end where all the loose ends sort of pull together.
I think I felt like this movie is more like a TV show, and that's why I kind of asked if it was one at one point, because it felt like one where there was so much going on. There was so many characters.
Little Twin Peaks-ish.
Yeah, I mean, it's Twin Peaks, but like a conservative Twin Peaks, maybe.
In the West.
In the West, yeah.
But it's got humor. There were some funny moments in there, too.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. And then, I don't know.
It's like, it's always heartwarming when one prejudice outweighs the next, prejudice. That was a great line.
What was it about? It was about her. Or was it the mother not liking the daughter dating? Or no, it was because because she'd be so happy she was not a lesbian that she was bringing home a man,
right?
But so it didn't matter,
even though it was an interracial marriage.
Yeah, even though it was a white guy instead of a Hispanic, whatever,
Because while they didn't like white people, at least it wasn't a lesbian. That's kind of the thing. It's like, for God's sakes, it was just funny.
It's just like one racism.
And then the next line I loved is when he's like, "I'm going to the other side," and it's Chris Cooper's character is saying that he's going to Mexico, but the other guy's like, "You mean the Republicans?"
Yeah.
I was like, "No, dude." It was just funny the way he's. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it was cute. It had some funny moments.
That's some good moments too. I liked it. It was. Now once again, I liked what I really liked was the fact that because the sheriff didn't want to be sheriff, he didn't want to be sheriff because there was a lot of political shit going on in that town where people were kind of controlling other people, and it was just before
like
it was just was it Charlie Wade was handling it and doing everything for the town, keeping the peace, doing all the things he needed to do.
Lining his own pockets.
Yeah, lining his own pockets.
Murdering people when he felt he had to.
Yeah, and then there was, apparently Buddy was a little bit different, but he still kept it going where he would do the stuff that. So he was.
Yeah, so instead of lining his own pockets, he instead was thinking a little bit larger and thinking more politically and saying, you guys get your people out there to vote for me. I'm going to look the other way when you guys do your thing. And,
right. Like nobody cared if people went to the bar or did that stuff at the bar.
At least he wasn't killing anybody.
Right. He was just letting people, and that's why the one guy at the bar said, the grandpa in the bar was like, your father let everybody just do whatever they wanted.
Right, and that's why they all loved him, because they remembered Charlie Wade being such a psychopath, so no wonder they loved him.
Well, see, you know what I wish? I wish we had gotten more, and I know, see, this is why I wish it was a TV show, because I wish we had gotten more a Buddy. We didn't really get enough of Buddy, and that's
right. He's kind of shadowy.
Yeah, because we got a lot of Charlie and we got a lot of Hollis.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing though, is that at first we're seeing it from Chris Cooper's eyes, and you can tell Chris Cooper's not particularly enamored of him, and then we're finding it out from everybody around him, and they all lionizing him, just by rote, automatically. And then all the other stuff about him, comes out. So we're all sort of expecting it to be that Buddy's the one who actually kills Charlie Wade, when it turns out that's not the case. So it's another one of those movies that sort of sets you up to have certain expectations only to pull the rug out from under you.
Which is what, the whole time, I think that's what Chris Cooper's fear was, that his father was a murderer and everything.
I think he expected it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then his dad died of natural causes and never got...
Because he had this thing about his dad keeping him away from his love, which, as turns out, there was a reason for that. One you didn't expect.
No.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah. But, I was even telling you, how would you feel in that situation?
Yeah, that's rough.
We'll just spoil it right here and not skip to the end. So, apparently he found out that his father and his girlfriend's mother ended up hooking up and having an affair. And then a year and a half before the girl was born, meaning that was the daughter.
That was his daughter.
That was his daughter. And so the mother did not like, or was it the mother? Or yeah, nobody wanted them to get together because...
And they never told them.
Yeah.
That was the thing. They never told them. That was the problem. If you, I mean, yeah, sure, it was the 50s, so you didn't talk about that stuff. But there's a reason why you talk about that stuff, and this is it. So yeah, they it's so funny because they're talking about how, yeah, even in school we felt that there was a connection. Well, there was a connection. You just didn't know what it was until too late.
What was Chris Cooper's name? I can't think of it right now.
Sam.
Sam. Oh my goodness. So Sam Deeds, yeah. He was
As usual, Chris Cooper did a fabulous job. He's one of my favorite actors. He's really, really good.
So in the beginning of the movie, you see these two guys in the middle of, like, I guess the desert, basically. You're like basically looking for specific, like, rocks or something.
One guy's got a metal detector and he's looking for bullets because he turns it into art. And the other guy is like a plant guy.
Yeah. So it was okay. So I was right. It was both sort of metal and plants, and they were both kind of going out there.
And they're both army people.
Which I liked one of the lines the guy said, because he was like, "What's this? What's this?" You know, right? And the guy's like, "You know, you've lived in here this whole time. You should be exploring. You know?
You should learn about the place you live in.
Learn about the place you live in." And then he goes and he calls them and he comes to check it out, and they find the skull of somebody.
Oops.
What happened? And then
there's a Masonic ring. And then a star, a sheriff's star pops up. Yeah.
So they were starting to get some ideas. This might be where the infamous Charlie Wade was, but they're not sure.
40-year-old mystery because he vanished with $10,000 and nobody knows what happened. Well, now someone's going to poke around and find out.
Yeah.
And I love the one Native American guy who has that store in the middle of nowhere, and he's, takes the rattlesnake. He's like, see, you shouldn't poke around where you don't know what's going to pop up.
Yep.
That's sort of the theme of the movie there.
Yeah, sort of, yeah. Oh, man. Was that... Generally, you're supposed to put that in the 5 pages into the movie, so maybe they did. But yeah, you shouldn't be poking around where you don't belong.
Because you don't know what's going to turn up.
You don't know what's going to turn up.
That's
and
funny.
So then, what is it? Basically, the rest of the movie is about flashbacks of, like, stories of
great flashbacks.
Great flashbacks. But I even had to ask Paul at one point, because it went from the one guy telling the story of, like, this is what happened to your father. This is what I remember about your father and Charlie Wade, and then it goes into the story about I guess they were at the bar and Charlie and Buddy didn't necessarily agree.
No, not at all. He's expecting Buddy to pick up the bribe money every week from the bar, and he's like, I'm not doing it. It's like, this is your deal. You do it.
I thought, the way that it made Matthew McConaughey look like the bad guy, at first. And I was like, why is he... But no, he was just a good guy trying to do everything right.
He was a different kind of bad guy.
Yeah, like you said, he just looked away from the bad stuff.
He didn't actually murder anybody, but he still didn't play by the rules.
Yeah. So anyway, him and, you see that flashback, and so I thought it was going to be like an anthology story where you get all these different tales of what happened in the Lone Star State.
And then you've got Otis, who's the witness to everything. He owns the black bar there for the African American folks because they don't really have any place else to go. And there's most of them on the army base that's closing. And boom, here comes Joe Morton, who is the actual son of Otis. And they are,
They have a conversation that starts off, I did not know that they were related, because the way they were talking, it just sounded like he was just some traveler coming in and checking the place out and everything. And then he's like, this is my grandson.
Yeah, he can't stand him. And of course,
my son.
Yeah, so because, he just, like, didn't reach out to him and just ignored him, he thinks. And that's another one who finds out stuff that he didn't know about.
Digs up some information.
And then his son, which is Otis's grandson, comes to the bar and finds out about him and almost gets in trouble because somebody gets shot at the bar. And all of these things end up weaving back in and connecting. You just at first you don't know. They all look like loose ends.
And they just look like stories, little teeny tiny
separate
stories.
things. And then as the movie goes along, they intertwine.
They all tie in.
Closer and closer.
I mean, So they all tie into their own stories, but like, I don't think was the Otis story tied in with the killing or whatever.
Right.
What happened with the killings and stuff. But that had nothing to do with his son or anything. I don't think.
No, but that's it. You've got the two separate narratives. You got the killing of Charlie Wade, and the rise of Buddy Dees, and then you've got the romance part.
The romance part, and then you've got the father son stuff with that, and then there other stories and other they get
like Pilar's mother, who doesn't really like the Mexicans. She calls them wetbacks coming over here, and
you found out because like she apparently met a guy there, and
she went through that whole process herself.
Yeah, so she sort of is now she feels like you're describing it, she feels like she's American now, and so now that she's American, all Mexican people that come to the border or whatever, they need to be put away.
And then she's also bitter about it too, because the man that she meets who helps her cross the border is Eladio Cruz. Eladio Cruz gets murdered
by Charlie
Wade. So
which we don't. I mean, we know he got murdered, but I would have loved to have seen a scene where a young Pilar's mother finds out, and all that stuff, because we don't really see that. But we do see her get picked up by the guy. We get to see that and that actually makes sense because both their last names are Cruz. So that was her husband. That was Pilar's. That was not Pilar's father. Pilar's father. I guess stepfather or whatever, but not her real father is Buddy.
Yep.
Jesus Christ! Like explaining this sounds like being on a reality show.
I know. There's just a lot going on, but it's really, really well done. It doesn't veer off into melodrama, which is good. Everybody sort of has an interesting character and a reason to be there. Even Bunny, poor Bunny, that's Sam's wife that he's got divorced from.
Yeah, divorced wife.
He goes back to find out, his dad's information is still in the garage, and you get to meet Bunny, and she's a nutcase.
She is a nutcase, played by by Frances McDormand, who I absolutely adore. I loved her in Fargo and all the Joel and Ethan Coen movies. Blood Simple. I mean, we did that for Criterion Watch. Sadly, you weren't on that one, but
it's a great movie.
Great movie. It's just classic stuff. So yeah, it had a all-star cast. It says Ron Canada. I'm thinking that's the father of Joe Morton.
I think so.
And so Clifton James and Chris Christopherson, man.
Chris Christopherson was great in this. What a cold-blooded snake that guy was.
He was horrible.
Really, really well done.
I love them.
He's murdering people with a nod and a wink at the same time. It's
pretty
just
much
awful.
He even winked at one point. He kind of just kills whoever he wants whenever he wants to do it. He doesn't even have to have really a reason, just to do it. And I mean, he's just a.
Well, you got to figure in Texas in those days, if you were a sheriff, you were pretty much king of your territory, and you did whatever the hell you wanted. And if you got a rotten one, this is what you got.
Yep.
So.
Terrible.
Murdering people left and right. And if you were a prejudiced asshole, which is what he was, then he really took it out on the Mexicans and the African American folks. And it was really bad. So you can understand why they're all defending Buddy, because at least Buddy wasn't that. He may have been corrupt too in a different way, but he wasn't killing them,
No.
So
as far as we know, I mean, I don't think he was. But he wasn't. He was sort of a nicer version of him.
And it's funny because in a way, Sam has been holding this grudge against his father all this time, but he gets some redemption in his eyes. He finally figures out, okay, he wasn't such a bad guy after all. He wasn't a corrupt murderer, first of all, and second of all, as far as the romance goes, okay, he wasn't keeping him away from her because of prejudice or class reasons. He had a very good reason why.
But see, some of the stuff he probably didn't know. He didn't know that Charlie Wade killed the Cruz, Eladio Cruz.
Well, but it was understood that he did that sort of thing a lot.
Right. But I'm saying, like, there's certain stories that they go into that not everybody knows the truth about or whatever. And some of it, I don't think even, like, so who was that kid that was with Eladio? Remember there was a kid that hid? And
he was the guy that hid. That was the guy that he went and, he was, oh God, what was his name? I forget his name. But yeah, he was the guy in Mexico. That's when he went over to Mexico.
Oh, duh. Okay, you're right. That's true. So
and he had a great line too. He's like, "You're a very important guy. You're a sheriff of Rio County in Texas." And then he draws the line in the sand with his Coke bottle. He says, "Now step across that line. Now you're nobody. Now you're a white gringo with a bunch of questions, and I don't have to answer anything."
Yeah,
that was great.
Which he did.
He did, because he was cool. But he was making him understand.
He was making him understand, like he didn't have to, because this wasn't he crossed that line where
you're important there, but you're not important here.
Yeah.
And this is what Mexicans had to go through when they were crossing over into Texas. Whatever you were in Texas, you were nobody, or whatever you were in Mexico, you were nobody once you crossed over into Texas, and you could be treated however way they felt like treating you, which was probably not very good.
Yeah, especially back in those days. What was it, 90s or 50s?
Yeah.
Was it 50s?
It was the 50s. Oof. Yeah, it was rough. No, the movie was made in the 90s.
I know. 95. I didn't know if it was 95. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know if it was supposed to take the normal thing was supposed to take place in 95, and then the flashbacks were in the 50s.
In the 50s, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of that's crazy. You know.
Just some of the attitudes about race were really, really well explored and cringy because it's real. It's just the way people are, how they think, and how they talk.
Well, the whole movie is real.
Like they Otis's bar is in an area they call Darktown. I mean, you can't say that kind of stuff now. I mean, good Lord.
I mean, maybe in Texas you can.
Yeah, maybe in Texas. Yeah.
I don't know, but like in most places, like in the South, maybe kind of stuff, but like in most places around whatever, and like Virginia, you can't do that, and we wouldn't want to do that.
Or the like when Joe Morton's character is interviewing the one private who's been getting into trouble, and she was there when the guy got shot, and why are you here? Why are you even in the army? And she's like, well, it's the one thing they let us do so we can go fight yellow people and brown people and shit. Why not use us? And he's like, that's what you think?
He's like, go do what you want to do.
Yeah. Why do you think they let us in on the deal?
She thought she was being court-martialed, but really he just wanted to give her some help and understand. And he was like, don't do it just because they're telling you to do it. Do it because you really want to. And he brings that back to his son.
Right.
Who he's trying to tell him, like, you don't have to go in the military if you don't want to.
Well, I think his thing was when he goes to visit Otis and he's not there, and the new wife Lenore is there, and he's like, yeah, there's a bunch you never met, and then she kind of shows him the little shrine where he's got all the clippings of him that he's been following his son, his career. Scene. Yeah, it's a great because he thought that he didn't care about him, and it turned out no, he'd been following you from afar the whole time. And I think that's when he decides to loosen up, and he loosens up with his son, and he loosens up with the people under his command, and he figures he doesn't have to be such a hard ass all the time.
Well, actually, I think that scene came after he had already talked to the girl. So I think what had happened was he started to get that. Then he went to see his father. His father wasn't home, had all that stuff, and then that really made him go easy on his son too, because
because originally he was like, you're not going to get into West Point with bees, and it's like, and then later on he's like, well, I wouldn't be disappointed if you went and did something else, which just shocked the kid,
which seemed like art or something, because he was doing some art stuff.
He was drawing stuff.
He was drawing a tank, so. Because he was like, well, if I'm going to the army, I gotta have something cool to, drive in and everything. So I thought that was pretty funny. But it was, the son really wanted, and the son never got a chance to meet the grandfather before, but snuck out and met him and everything and talked to him. And the grandfather, I think, asked him if the father knew, and he said no. And then later he never told his father that he went to see the grandfather.
Makes his own sauce. He kind of lets it go when he says that.
Yeah, he makes his
like,
own
oh,
sauce.
okay.
Yeah, how do you know that? Yeah, but that was great. Like, because he asked him to the barbecue or whatever. He said he was gonna go make a barbecue. So I mean, all those stories were sweet. Like I just enjoyed watching all the characters and seeing the
Great character
development.
study.
Yeah, and all that. But I mean, I didn't know anything when I like you told me about it or whatever before. You never told me the story or anything.
I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, man. I swear, if they're ever gonna do something for HBO Max, they should sort of do a
Miniseries?
not a miniseries, like a regular TV
12-part
series,
series.
a Lone Star, like series. I would watch that.
Let's call up John Sayles. Come on, dude.
I mean, he's still alive. Come on,
Yeah.
Come on, John.
That'd be great.
Get on it. Make. I mean, even if you just get a different writer to do it, that
Small Town Secrets. It's a really good mind that you can tap into. A lot of good stories there.
Oh wow, John Sloss, executive producer. John Sloss was the infamous lawyer who worked with like Kevin Smith and a bunch of other people. So I'm guessing he put some money up. Did a lot of independent stuff. So that would sort of make sense for John Sayles.
And Elizabeth Pena. I love Elizabeth Pena. It's such a shame that she passed away.
When did she pass away?
Like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, unfortunately.
It's a bummer.
I know. She was luminous in this film. She really was.
She was. She was beautiful.
Just amazing. Really good actress.
She did a really great job. She was...
as always.
Yeah. So I liked her. But
If you liked her in Jacob's Ladder, you'd love her in this. She's good in everything. She's one of those actors.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen a bad performance by her.
But everybody in this was really, really good. So, yeah, just fantastic.
I mean, you kind of... It's funny because you kind of get invited into this small town and then you kind of learn about everybody. And by the end of it, you're just like, I want more, like I want to go back and visit, That's why, once again, it needs a TV show.
You want to know how Sam and Pilar are doing and if they ever, made it work.
Yeah, I mean, she said she could never have kids or anything again. So if that was what he was worried about, and really he wasn't worried about that, he was just worried about the idea of like them being half brother, half sister, and together. And
the thing is that he says that they were, everybody knew that Buddy had a woman on the side, which means that everybody has to at least have put 2 and 2 together that they were.
That they were the couple.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess they at some point you don't care and you just sort of grab onto whatever love you can get.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if they're not going to have kids, then
once
it doesn't
again,
really matter.
That's why I want a TV show because I want to go back to Buddy's stuff. Like I want to find out what happened with Buddy and his stuff. Growing up, did he try to? I mean, he did. We did see a little bit of that. We saw the scene where Buddy took his son away from the the car
and
or whatever. It was like,
driver.
Get out of there, and stuff. And we were wondering. I mean, I was wondering why. You knew why, but I was wondering why that was happening. Why is he trying to keep them away from each other and stuff? But and then I've seen some movies. Maybe they took it from this movie, but I've seen some movies. Like I saw a movie called Lover's Lane, where a bit was the father trying to keep the daughter away, and all that stuff. You find out more information later, I'm like, okay, now I get it.
Now it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, maybe people just kind of love this movie and want to show homage or steal or whatever you want to call it. I don't know.
Well, I don't remember that this was a big hit back in the day. I remember seeing it in the theaters and really, really enjoying it. It just... it's a John Sayles movie, so it's going to be really, really good, but it's not going to play to a giant audience, unfortunately. It just doesn't have a big studio backing, which is a shame because he always makes good movies. I mean, he's just one of those guys. So, this is the second John Sayles film we've done. I'm sure we'll end up doing at least a couple more at some point in the series.
Sometime.
Yeah. 8 Men Out is another one that would be really, really good to do. There are a number of them. But
that's the Black Sox.
Right, Black Sox Scandal.
My mom was watching that a while
Great
ago.
movie.
I think she had never seen it before or something, but yeah.
It was really cool. But yeah, so, and this one kind of has the veneer of being a Western, but it's not, just because it's in Texas. It's kind of dressed like that, but it's not really a Western in the traditional sense of a Western.
Right.
And I think that might have confused audiences back in '95 a little bit.
Well, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't a Western. It was a modern day.
It was set in the West, but it wasn't a Western.
No, I mean it wasn't set in the Old West. Or
not in the Old
anything,
West.
Yeah, so it wasn't like an Old Western kind of thing. But it was a story about a sheriff in his town, and elected sheriff who wasn't really happy doing his job, and more realistic to what it's probably like sometimes. Like, I don't want to be sheriff. Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because that's the same thing that Bunny tosses at him. He's like, "You didn't really put your heart and soul into it, did you?" So yeah, it's because he didn't really want to marry her. He really wanted to be with Pilar, and he couldn't. So then he goes back to sheriff, and he's not really interested in being sheriff either. He just wants to be there because Pilar is there. Yeah, that's what he wants.
That's what he keeps doing. He keeps doing all these things he doesn't want to do just to be with the girl he wants.
And then he ends up finding out all this information, and he doesn't want to know about it. He just wants to be with it. And it's funny because when they finally do get back together after all this time, and they have that one glorious night, and he's like, she's like, "What are we going to do about this?" And he's like, "More, I hope."
Right, said that. But then later, when he finds out the actual news of what's going on, he pieces it all together. He has that talk with her, and she's just like,
"It's a rough talk."
Well, what do you want to do, kind of thing. And eventually he just was like, "I want to keep seeing you," So it was sweet.
Yeah, it was nice. I liked it too. It was good. Good movie.
Good movie. If you haven't seen it, we spoiled the shit out of it, so
maybe some might think it's a little long, but there's a lot to tell. There's a lot of stuff going on and a lot of characters.
I don't see why people can complain about length when they go and watch a fucking superhero movie that's 2.5 hours long.
Right.
This is only 2 hours and 15 minutes, so go watch it.
Yeah, I would say so.
It's okay. But if it's like 5 hours, it should be a TV show. At that rate.
Well, and I would love to see this come out in Blu-ray. I don't believe it's out there yet. Criterion, this would be a perfect pickup for you.
Criterion.
This would be great. Here. All the John Sayles
movies.
Or
Arrow's been doing a lot of stuff. They're just putting out Witness. That's a movie sort of like this where it's sort of not as taught. Like I don't hear as many people talk about that. So Arrow or. I don't know, not Master Cinema. One of those groups, some more. There's Indicator. I mean, there's a ton.
Well, we know. I mean, I've said before, Maidwan is one of my absolute favorite movies of all time, and this movie I would say is up in the top 20 or 30 as well. It really made an impression on me when I saw it in the theater back in '95. I was just like, wow.
How many times have you watched it since?
Oh, dozens. It's been a while. I've been kind of saving it.
Oh, for when we do the show, yeah.
To share it with people.
Yeah, well, that's good. I think Gary would like this movie.
That's what Film Freaks is all about. It's like you have a love of certain movies that you really love that are really good, and you want to share with folks who've never seen it.
I think Gary would love this movie.
I think so too. Yeah, I think Joe Lynn would have liked it. She was with us earlier when we did a Forgotten Horror Classics film.
Yeah, and then unfortunately she had to go home, so she couldn't stay for a 2-hour, 15-minute movie and then another. Whatever long podcast.
She has a life, unlike us.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
We'll let her go for that. But it was really nice. I mean, I liked it. I was a little tired already because we watched a movie earlier, so I was a little tired. But, I mean, other than maybe my eyes nodded off for a second or two, I didn't miss anything.
And a very different tone than the last one. The last one was very dark.
Dark.
This one had some dark moments.
This had dark moments, but it was pretty light.
It was nice. It had a certain sweetness.
It was
to it.
It was romantic. So
you were really rooting for Sam and Pilar.
And I wanted more Bunny. We only had one scene with Bunny. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of hoping she was like really crazy and talking about football the whole time. High strung is what she was called, and she was just the whole time. It sounded like she was on speed or something. Probably. She was just a little out there. But
and there was something a little sad about her too.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think she really loved Sam and wish that it worked out.
I think
or
she was
whatever.
disappointed.
Yeah. And like, you know, he loved her too, but not like that anymore. Not like as much as
not his original love. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, you never forget your first love. You know, so
I never really had one, so hey, good for me, I guess. So I never have to
pine over.
I never have to pine over them for the rest of my life.
It's tough. It's tough.
So
And not everybody gets to go back.
Yeah.
And
reclaim that
that early love, that first love. That's a pretty powerful story there, because most people move on, or they do other things, or things change, you know. So, but it turns out because they had a special relationship. So there you go.
Connection.
Special connection.
A connection, as they called it. I was like, that's funny. You know, like, I don't know. It's a good movie. Liked it.
I liked it too.
I think you should watch it.
Check
Go watch
it out.
it tonight.
Check it out.
I don't know if it's on streaming or anything anywhere.
I don't think so. You may have to go to Amazon. That's what I did. I went to Amazon and picked it up.
Okay. Well, you go to Uncle Amazon and pick it up.
Yeah, there's something about the John Sayles movies in general. I don't know if there is some kind of a
well, it's Warner Brothers
over it.
Shouldn't
over
it be on HBO Max?
What. Yeah, I don't know, but there's something going on with his movies. I mean, Mate One is now available, but it took a long time.
Yeah, but that was also through Criterion. So maybe Lone Star should be a Criterion, because
I think it should.
But it's going to be harder. Like, I don't know.
I mean, imagine if
write to them.
We got John Sayles, and he could like do commentary. Maybe Chris Cooper, you know, a couple other folks. That'd be great. You know,
we should be working for Criterion.
Tell me about it. Absolutely.
Fine people. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. This was fun.
Yep, it was good.
It's a good show. So check out John Sayles' Lone Star. It's really good. And it's about to fall over. I'm really tired. You can tell. So all right. Well,
we'll see you on the next episode of Film Freaks.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. This is for real. Take two, baby.
Keep rolling.
Poor Muesli. Sorry, that's Muesli, right?
That's Muesli.
Muesli's like, God damn it. Why do you guys drag me into the shit?
Keep rolling.
Sorry, Muesli. Let's put you right up here. Let's bring you a little closer.
A little more.
There we go. That's the problem.
Try not to destroy him.
All right, let's go.
So, don't hurt the cow.